Good evening, everyone. So we're at Rec Field. I've been here for a little bit. I've actually spent the past 4 amazing days right on this very stage, watching 4,000 or 5,000 kids graduate. I was a high school principal for a long time, and high school graduations just have a special place in my heart. It's that moment where all of your efforts pay off. It's the moment where kids are very reflective, right? When they cross the stage, they realize all you've done for them. It's just an amazing. So for those of you that are here that were part of that, all of our high school folks, thank you. It's been an amazing past 4 days. This evening, we're going to recognize the outstanding contributions made by so many of you all here in the Boulder Valley School District, and all of the things that we have accomplished together in the past 15 months. I get somewhat emotional when I think about all that everybody has sacrificed to make this work for our families and for our kids. I don't care what role you've played in our school district or in our community. These past 15 months have been impossible. And every time I think something is going to be impossible, our team, our people stand up to the challenge and excel time and time again. Whether it's high flex teaching, or how are we going to make transportation work, to how do we clean all the classrooms, to how are we going to get food to our most vulnerable families in our community. Time and time again, our team has stepped up to the challenge, and we're here to celebrate that this evening. When I think about our educators and everything they did to ensure that learning continued to happen, how flexible they were, as our guidelines changed, and how we were able to welcome students back in person. Then send them away for a little bit, but then we brought them back again. And just how incredibly flexible everybody in our schools has been. When I think about the supports that everyone on the team provided for our kids, driving supplies to their house, driving computers to their homes, checking in home visits, just incredibly, just so thankful for all of the work that we've done. As we think about the role that technology played, how many of you want to delete Google Meets? Can we do that, Andrew? Can we do that? But what a big role that has played in our lives, whether it's Google or Zoom. We've learned a whole new skill set as a profession, right? If you think about the professional development, the on-the-job training that we all did, our abilities to instantaneously learn new skills and connect and improve and work through that. I would say that what our employees have done this year is truly exemplifies the quality of the organization that we are here in Boulder Valley School District. Most importantly, our district focused on students and their needs first and foremost. That we know that it went beyond teaching and learning, that we had to serve all of their needs. And everybody on the team stepped up to do that. Everybody rolled up their sleeves and did whatever it took to make sure we're serving our families and our kids. So families and kids who didn't know where their next meal was going to come from didn't go hungry. And when they couldn't come to our distribution sites, we brought food to them. I'm in awe of the work that we've done this year. And so tonight we're excited to speak to the representatives from so many of our teams who helped our students, families, and communities navigate this impossible year. And I'm looking forward to hearing from everybody and watching Randy ask some questions so we can just hear some of the stories and share them this evening. But before I get too much further, I want to recognize that folks that are here tonight are just simply representatives of what's a much, much larger effort that's stretched to every single school in our district, every single department, every single employee. And so tonight, for the superintendent's honor roll, that's what we're doing. We're celebrating every employee here in BVSD. It took all of us working together to make it through this pandemic. I'm going to start by recognizing our health services team. That's right. Yeah, save your energy. We're going to have to cheer really hard for these folks. While there've been a few public health scares in the past couple of decades, maybe bird flu, SARS, nothing compares to what it is that we face with the coronavirus pandemic. Our school nurses, health room staff, public health partners stepped up to the challenge. I'd love to have representatives from Health Services, Boulder County Public Health, and the City and County of Broomfield Public Health and the Environment to come on up.
Hi, I'm Susan Brown from the Eldorado K-8 Health Room. I'm the health room paraeducator.
Hi, Bernadette. My name's Linda Patterson. I'm the district nurse for Superior.
They've always been heroes to me.
I print off a list every day, every morning.
Okay.
The list will show me which parents have not completed that COVID screening for their child.
Can I see Braxton?
They've forgotten or that they're having computer problems.
Fantastic.
The idea of team and it takes a village is paramount.
We need to know if kids are healthy when they're coming into our building every day.
Can I see Thomas for a minute?
Yep. Okay, awesome. I do get my steps in. I've got my trusty Fitbit going, and I do get thousands of steps in a day as I'm going around the building.
Just following up, see how he's doing.
Kids who are sick need to stay home and rest, and if they don't feel better, they need to go and have a COVID test done.
There you go. Sort of gross. This is disgusting!
I'm a registered nurse working with the COVID team.
Like spit like 15 times.
It's the only time parents give them and teachers give permission to spit in a tube and not get in trouble. We were the first in Colorado and the first out of at least 7 states that I'm aware of to do mobile testing sites in our schools where we rotate locations every single day.
Is this done?
I think you're all done.
The data that we collect helps families and as well as the school district and governments be able to make more accurate decisions of what's really going on in our state and in our county.
Working with children,
That's not breakdancing!
no matter what's going on, they can find joy and happiness and excitement and hope in everything.
Easy.
My name's Alicia Sievers. Do you guys want to run through any other cases from today? So I was hired on as the Medicaid resource nurse, but when COVID hit, I was asked if I wanted to work on the COVID team, and I said yes. And here we are. I think you've had your hand up for a while, so we're really helping our schools navigate cases related to COVID. It can be challenging. It's like a big riddle. Who are the close contacts of that individual? Did they take the bus? Was this a student that was in childcare? Who did they eat lunch with? We've got a goal, and we're gonna meet it. It's to keep kids in school, and it's to reduce the transmission of COVID.
I believe wholeheartedly they should be here. They're safe here.
Why do kids need to be in school? It's because it really is sort of a foundation of our community.
It is cool to be part of this team, and we're tired. Both things are true. I really hope that we can all look at ourselves and say, I'm coming out of this better than I went in.
We're gonna get back to something that's, a little bit different, but that's normal for us.
Keeps us all safe.
I don't think you're gonna find a school that says they could do without a school nurse now. They're heroic, they're just an amazing group of people.
I know that early on, he was talking about watching the website. I actually think Rob watched that website more than anybody else. But you and I were having this conversation about, I don't think it's going to leap the ocean.
I think it might.
No. That Pacific Ocean, it's really big.
I think it might.
And it did. We saw it in, Washington, and then suddenly it was here in Boulder County.
Yeah, it was in North Carolina. I was in North Carolina, and it just came right after I left North Carolina. It was crazy.
So the team that you lead, you guys were involved way before even things came ashore. You guys were thinking about what those protocols would be. You were working with your partners in public health. Kind of give us a little insight into what that looked like.
Thanks, Randy.
I think she's hiding behind me. She's not typically the type of person that likes to be on stage, I think.
Like you said, it was just something that my background's in public health. I had an inkling that this could be a big one. We started reaching out to Boulder County and Broomfield and talking to you, talking to Margaret and Rob and the leaders and saying, we need to start thinking about what we're going to do. And it moved a lot faster than we thought it would, but I think we were getting ready for it. We were in a good place.
And I know you and I have kind of talked about that involved in everything that we do had to be the thought about how we reacted. You know, if you're having a field trip, can you have a field trip? What should that look like? You know, in the classrooms, all those kind of things.
People putting on gloves and gowns and masks and things that they had never used before. You know, it was really important to have nurses there to be able to work with food services, work with the IT folks, make sure that they followed procedures, they knew why it was important. So yeah, we've been involved from the beginning, and it's been an incredible journey for all of us. The ability for health services to work so closely with all of you, all of the schools, all the leadership, I just can't thank you all enough for letting us come in and help you and being so kind to us when we give bad news over and over again. I'm really sorry about that. But I can't thank you really enough, and all your staff and everybody that has been a part of this. You know, every time something came up, I thought the same thing. There's no way we could do this. And these minds just got together and made it happen. It was incredible.
And you guys work so closely with public health. I'm going to move over here. Soda and Jeff. Everyone looks petrified. I don't know if this Q&A format's going to work for us, but you guys were partners with us from the very beginning, you and Broomfield. And again, I mean, what was that like from your seat as you guys were trying to figure out what this should look like, you know, trying to figure out how this disease was going to move? I mean, you were waiting. There's so little that we knew at the beginning, right?
Absolutely. It was the craziest time. So I've been in public health for 31 years, and it was the craziest time I have ever experienced. We didn't know what to expect in the beginning. We were trying to learn what was happening. We didn't know what kind of guidance we were needing to give, and we had to keep changing it. And luckily, all of you were very gracious in this whole process, and you understood that. And it's a good thing that we had such a close working team and that we had good relationships before we got to this, because it made a huge difference to be able to work with such a great team as what we have here. So,
anything you want to add?
I'm eternally grateful for Stephanie and her health services team, because it was an amazing partnership. I can't imagine going through this and being smiling and happy on Sunday evening at 10, getting calls, and then again on Monday at 7. It was an amazing partnership.
And I should say that work hasn't stopped. You know, as of today, you are still working on quarantines, and I know you're wrinkling your nose because we have some kids that will be out through the end of the school year, unfortunately unable to celebrate the end. So, you know, the pandemic's not over yet. We're still working. I want to recognize the team, too, that supports you so much, you know, in tracking down where all these cases are and making sure that we're thinking about, okay, who needs to be taken out of classrooms? Do they have a seating chart? All those kind of things. What was that all like throughout this whole thing?
You know, in the beginning, it was messy. It was messy. But I tell you, the leadership at the schools, they allowed us to kind of fail forward. We learned, we got our rhythm down, and really by the end, I mean, it's still painful. We're still giving bad news, but I feel like our system got really smooth. Yeah. No one likes to give bad news, though.
It was really tough. I mean, as things were going on. I know you helped to set up testing. Tell us a little bit about, you know, again, my favorite was the video that we got with all the kids going, you know, setting up and doing that. But I mean, it's so helpful for us to have an idea of if someone's sick. And I mean, the schools were so great to host us. What would you want people to know?
It did a lot of work of making sure the availability of testing was there for everyone, especially the vulnerable populations. We were able to keep more kids in school, because if they just had the sniffles and it was just that, then we could send them back to school. We didn't have to take out 20 kids. So it was very, very helpful for keeping people in school.
Thank you for that. I'm going to ask you one last question, which is, I know that the team is far larger than we have right here. I want to give a shout out to communications. Who all do we need to remember?
Carolyn, oh my God, Carolyn.
Yeah!
And of course, you know, we have translation on all those things. Every time we had these things, we had to think about who needed to go out to. So anybody else?
Leanne Shelter from transportation, and we worked with community schools because every kid rode a bus and went to SAC and had a cousin who played with this baseball team, and it just never ended. Right? And I also want to thank Deb Hofert, who is our administrative assistant. So from the end, it's Alicia Sievers, who really led our COVID team. Deb Hofert, who actually held our entire department together, because of course there's more to health services than COVID. And she kept everything going all the time. Every time I needed a phone number, I gave her phone number out. Like you said, Brittany with testing. Molly actually lives in Maine and is one of the nurses that worked on our COVID team from Maine. She would answer stuff starting at 6 o'clock in the morning and work sometimes all the way through, till 11 o'clock her time at night, Eastern time also. And of course, Jeff and Soda and Carrie, who keeps trying to hide, right? She was with me every step of the way. When those meetings started, she and I attended everything together, because if one of us went down, we knew that we needed a backup. And then she also kept the entire health services department going. And of course, our health room paras. Our health room para rep wasn't able to come tonight, but all of you, that they went above and beyond, and our nurses this year, in tracking kids and making sure that they weren't in school sick, following up with each and every one of them, and they delivered a lot of bad news. So please love on your health room paras. They are the most incredible part of our team as well. All right.
We just recently celebrated School Nurse Appreciation Day, and I think that we really can all appreciate the fact that these guys do a great job. Jeff, I'm going to have you stay up, but let's give one more round of applause to this team. I'm keeping Jeff on the stage here because I don't know how many of you guys know, and we're going to have your colleague with Broomfield as well, so we'll make sure that he gets the award. In fact, Rob, if you want to pull out Jeff's award there. We wanted to specifically recognize the two public health executive directors because, and I will say that Jeff has recently retired, and I'm sure that he might rather be on a tropical beach somewhere or a swim-up bar, although it looks like he's already in that mantra, so we're all good with that here. This was a really difficult thing for our public health officials. I know that people face death threats. Not two people could agree on what should be done given the data and the things that were happening.
Absolutely, it was a crazy time. But one of the nice things is we actually have a group of public health directors, and Jason, as Randy mentioned, was one of the partners who works closely with us. And to have a group like that during something like this was really, really important, because there was times when we would get 400 or 500 emails a day that people were just upset with what was happening. Phone calls would come in, and it's really good to be able to lean on friends that are going through the same thing, and we're trying to figure out things and look at data together. So it was crazy. It was nuts, and I have to say that it feels good to be dressed like this and not be in the middle of it right now, but I know you all are still working on it, and I so much appreciate all the work you're all doing.
Well, thank you. I know that we want to present you with a little gift.
The Board of Education and Superintendent recognized Jeff Zayak, Boulder County Public Health, for outstanding service to the students, staff, and community of the Boulder Valley School District every day, but especially during the great pandemic of 2021, as well as the distinguished career serving the citizens of Boulder County. Jeff, can't thank you enough, buddy.
Thank you so much. Can I say one more thing?
You sure can, and then I have one other question for you.
I just want, especially the board members in the back, to know I got to see you at least once or twice a month, and I so much appreciate Rob and the leadership team and all the people in each of those schools, the principals and the leadership that helped make this happen. I know how difficult it was with all these changes. And we have incredible school districts here. Both St. Vrain and Boulder Valley School District, we worked really closely with, and that didn't happen everywhere in the state. So kudos to all of you. Kudos to your Board of Education, because they were incredible supports in this entire thing. And kudos to Randy, you've been doing a great job, and it's been wonderful to work with all of you. I definitely miss you all.
Another round of applause for Jeff. So Jeff, now that you're retired, you can be completely honest with us. You like us better than St. Vrain, don't you?
I love both school districts.
Still on the job, Jeff Zayak, everyone! Appreciate you, man. So when our schools closed, our custodial team were the first to return. remember how scary that was? Right? When I say that, they were the first to run towards the challenge, right? They began deep cleaning each building for the return of our students. Of course, no one would have known that it would be about 6 months before kids would have started returning, and cleaning would remain one of our primary health precautions to keep students safe. But they were the first ones back. Love to have Rick Berry, our head custodian at Douglas Elementary, and the BVCEA president, and Annie Berry, head custodian at Platt Middle School, to come on up, as well as any other custodians that may be with us here this evening. Come on the stage.
So as the superintendent mentioned, those early days when we first were out of school, when we pulled our kids out, there were so few questions, or so few answers. There were not that many facts about what this disease could do, or whether or not the things that we were doing were the right things. But we went to work, and the team, our custodial team, was brave, and they went into the classrooms and they started cleaning schools immediately. Tell us a little bit what that was like.
Believe it or not, it was quite well organized, in large part due to the district management. Superintendent Anderson, Rob Price, coordinated it quite well. We also were able to bring forth, transportation, food services people, thanks to the district leadership team, to get additional staff in the schools and sanitize, clean.
That was one of my favorite parts, was walking into schools and saying hi to the person that was cleaning and asking them, okay, where are you from originally? And they would be like, I'm the food service manager over at Louisville or wherever. And they were so proud to be working and supporting the school. At those times, some of the teachers were teaching from the classroom, but you could see that great pride of being part of that solution.
And they were, in addition to that, they were proud to be doing it. They were quite thankful to be doing it. The district stepped forth. It was a very stressful time for everybody, but the district eliminated that stress of not knowing where the paycheck might come from. They really stepped up in a huge way for Unit C, operations employees, to ensure the fact that they knew they were, they still had jobs.
Throughout the whole thing, we learned more. We learned that it didn't transmit as easily on surfaces, which I think was a huge relief to a lot of folks. And in a lot of ways, the custodial team, still was very, very important. The types of things of making sure that our schools were ready, making sure that all the desks were in the right place. Is anybody willing to kind of talk about what that was like, kind of getting buildings ready for people to return? Would you mind?
Do you want to hold it? It was a little crazy because we were told one day we had to have 30 desks in here. It started out with just 14 desks. And they had to be 6 feet apart, and there's some rooms that weren't big enough to do that. So we had to come up with other ideas. But then as it went on, we were getting 30 desks in one room, and that was even crazier. But I live on that kind of thing. I love it when there's all this craziness going on, and I know I've got to just be on it, and I had the best custodians in the world, and they were right behind me the whole time. It was wonderful.
I always love to see our staff, especially at the Ed Center. I know that I get to see you guys on a normal basis. But you guys are here right now because of the graduations too, right? I mean, you guys have been everywhere. What has that been like, watching all these kids graduate, and to be able to kind of support that by making sure that everything's ready to go here?
It's been fun. I'm really proud of these groups. Each graduation had its own unique touch, and every one of them was just amazing to see. Also, we really like working with the maintenance crew. We rarely get to do that, so closely for so long, and they're kind of fun guys, so it was nice.
Thank you for everything that you guys have done during this pandemic. We appreciate you guys.
Thank you very much.
Another round of applause. I will say, these past 4 days have been just such a blast, and our custodial crew, our maintenance team, they've been running golf carts always there with cold water for everybody. They've actually put on a clinic in customer service. They have done such an amazing job, just showing this community, how awesome they are and how awesome our district is. For everybody, a round of applause for our guys in the back that have been helping, our maintenance crew, our custodial crew, really helping out over these past 4 days. So as we think about back to the earliest days of the pandemic, there's just a fact. It was a really important fact that just I was so worried. There was no toilet paper anywhere. That was troubling to me. That's actually, if you can't find toilet paper, that's a bad sign of bad things to come. And so I want to take an opportunity to thank our friends in procurement. So somehow, some way, they were black market, finding toilet paper all over the place. But our friends in procurement in the warehouse were dealing with just a shortage of what we needed on epic proportions. As everybody was trying to scramble to get hand sanitizer and toilet paper, masks, cleaning wipes, our procurement team was hard at work making sure that Boulder Valley School District had all of those things for our kids in our schools. And this doesn't even take into account all of the accounting work needed to keep track of all the expenditures and ensure we're abiding by the rules, right, Bill Sutter? That's always important. So if we can have Ryan Harder and representatives from Procurement, Warehouse, and Business Services come on up to be recognized.
I'm sure that you're having Rob talk a little bit about that probably brings back a little bit of a panic attack.
A little bit. We had plenty of toilet paper, actually. But
well, then why aren't you giving us any?
It was probably like buying a Cabbage Patch doll on Christmas Eve. Couldn't find it anywhere. And luckily, I had a bunch of contacts that we could reach out to, and we got things in time. So it all worked out in the end. And we still have plenty of it if anybody needs anything else.
I remember that one of those it was just like this laundry list of, okay, you got the toilet paper, but do you have the hand sanitizer? And I think at one point we even were relying on a distillery. It was kind of craziness.
Yeah, actually picked up a truckload of hand sanitizer from a distillery downtown myself and brought it up for athletics, I think. So, but we were told we couldn't use that anymore because it might taste like vodka. So, but we still have plenty.
How would you know that, Ryan?
I was going to ask if he picked up anything on the side while he was there, but
I sampled.
he said he sampled. Okay. The warehouse, of course, once you get all this stuff, and I think, we're talking about a lot of stuff. I remember when the air purifiers came in, that it was just crate after crate after crate. It was, a lot of stuff in this warehouse. Those guys, had to really kind of keep on top of it, make sure that they were going out to the right schools. It's quite an ordeal.
Yeah, we couldn't have done it without maintenance and transportation's help as well, but they helped us deliver them out. I remember in December we got the email. I got the email at 6 o'clock at night, and the next day we had over 2,000 of them ordered and delivered within 10 days. So it was a quick turnaround, but we got them all out, and hopefully they're still running. So.
And speaking of that, this was all over winter break, and so again, you're pulling the stuff in. It's getting delivered into the warehouse, and then it's getting shipped out like right away, and then they're setting them up in the class. It was really a team effort.
It was really a team effort. Like I said, we couldn't have done it without everybody's help, but our warehouse team was in there since day one of this. They didn't have any time off, and they were out in the schools doing what they could.
BVSD is putting protocols in place for reintroducing students.
We're delivering air purifiers to every single school throughout the district, and I would say more than 90% of the classrooms, just to try to help out with indoor air quality and make sure all the spaces are safe for people to be in.
It's a Herculean effort, from getting awarded a grant to working with purchasing to make sure that we could expedite the order and get these air filters here on time, to our warehouse team that accepts the deliveries, and then our HVAC team who figures out the deployment plan. And then what we did is we pulled in bus drivers, and we have 30 to 40 volunteers coming in on their weeks off to help us deploy these, because it's really important that we're all together for all students.
So follow him down to the library. We need 3 in the library.
They go in anywhere that there will be students, right? So the gyms, libraries, cafeterias, and then of course all the individual classrooms.
And this is one layer of our layered defense. So along with masks, social distancing, washing hands, and doing COVID screening before students come, this is one piece that will make sure that we have safe and healthy environments.
If there's anything positive to be said about COVID, and there's not much, it is that it has heightened our awareness of indoor air quality and the importance that has been there all along. All of these provisions, such as source control, ventilation, filtration, are fundamental principles within optimizing indoor air, and they are fundamental to reducing the risk of COVID transmission.
We're going to go to high and then turbo.
Here at BVSD, it's really important for us to get students back into the classroom. And we really believe that putting air purifiers into each classroom, again, adds one more layer of defense against COVID.
One of the other things that we've done with the entire district basically is we're bringing in a lot more outside air to help just keep the fresh air in and the bad air out.
We've been working with districts for 30 years, but rarely does an effort such as what Boulder has engaged in typically occur.
It gives teachers, it gives parents, it gives students, it gives staff another sense of, hey, the district is doing everything possible to make sure that our environments are healthy and safe.
It definitely makes it feel safer, especially for us if they're running around the clock, even in the evenings when they're cleaning and disinfecting. It's just nice knowing that it's there, the extra precaution.
Whether it be COVID today, it's going to be something else tomorrow. This is not going away. And so it's one that we're going to have to deal with, and by situating ourselves now and better understanding the approaches that are most effective, we'll be able to allocate our resources better in the future. And I think that's very important for the district.
I just want to remind parents and staff, as well as students, that we're doing everything possible to ensure that you have a safe environment to come back to when you return to in-person learning.
I know that there's a whole business services team that you're connected to that is doing a lot of hard work out there. Any other shout outs that you want to make sure that we give?
Definitely my team in procurement and the warehouse, and Bill for letting me spend all the money I could. And it's just everybody in the district. It's been great working with you all and getting to know everybody, even though it's been a pandemic, but it's been really fun actually. So.
And again, I mean, you got to make sure that you got the money, and so that the accounting team, and I mean, everyone is involved in business services to make sure this is a success.
Yes, with the grant money coming in and trying to track it and make sure it goes out and comes in the right way, it's been a real challenge. Something I never thought I'd do before ever. So bought some things I never thought I would buy ever, and I bought cadavers. So.
And at first, I didn't think they needed the cadavers. I should follow up on that question.
Black market. It's all.
I'm a little concerned now. Black market, he says. Let's have a hand up for the whole team at Business Services.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. So another big effort during the pandemic was making sure that all of our campuses were all labeled with all the information and directions folks would need when they returned to their buildings. Worked closely with an advisory group made up of school leaders who gave us critical feedback to make sure that we got that right. If you were part of that team, can you please stand up so we can recognize you? So all of our signage that we put in our schools was created by the incredible Jade Cody in communications. Jade, I was going to ask you to stand up, but you're already standing up, so everybody, a round of applause for Jade. All the signs, all the graphics, everything that we've done for graduation, and much, much more. Also, our BVSD print shop did an outstanding job of printing the many, many signs that went up to our schools. They looked fantastic. Thank you so much for those of you that work in the print shop. Finally, the BVSD Safety, Security, Emergency Management team went to work before school started to get everything placed. Let's give a round of applause for all their work and, of course, all they do to make sure that we stay safe each and every day. So the first children to return to our schools during the pandemic were actually part of the emergency childcare program designed to help essential workers, our first responders, doctors, and nurses get back to work, a critical service to our community. We'd love to have our representatives from the emergency childcare team come on up.
Again, this program started shortly after we had pulled kids out of school. So it happened in March, right, where we closed schools down. And then in April, we had this program up. And Renee, why don't you tell me a little bit about, it was serving our emergency services folks, police department, hospital people, the nurses that remember at 6 o'clock every night we go out and howl for them. It was really supporting them so they could go help other patients, right?
Yes.
this team from day one went and just like the custodial team that went running into the building, so did these fine women. And we allowed people who were first responders who didn't have the opportunity to stay home, they couldn't work from home, and we made sure we took care of their kids every single day. And I cannot be more proud of these fine women and everybody in childcare in BVSD. So thank you.
In those earliest days, I remember, we were very afraid that someone might get sick, taking precautions, of course, that kind of thing. But again, we went through that entire emergency childcare without one case.
Zero, folks. 0 cases.
Yeah. I bet St. Vrain didn't have 0.
I would love to have somebody share with me, what did it feel like to be able to serve these families in those earliest days? Do you want to talk?
I would love to. It was really, there was a lot of unknowns and we kind of didn't know what we were doing. But like said before, I think we all just took the challenge and rolled with it, and we were super creative and came up with ideas, and if something didn't work, we tried again, and we met kids we never would have met and built these relationships and had experiences we wouldn't have had if we hadn't had COVID. And so there's a silver lining in that. And again, we had 0 cases and we came out and we were excited for May, but overall, I think we did the best we could, and it was a really good experience.
I think one of the other things, and we had public health up here, again, those partnerships, and also, and I know recently we had the athletic directors as part of our weekly wake up, and one of the things that we talked about is that programs like athletics, like this emergency childcare, also kind of cleared the way, helped us to figure out those protocols, really got dialed in on some of those things so that we were ready when kids came back to our buildings, right?
We did, and public health, and again, the health services team. I mean, how many times were we on calls late at night, weekends? It felt like a lot, because it was. But we did. We got to build those protocols that worked for the entire district, and it is through the relationships that we built and the teamwork that we have together.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all so much. Another round of applause. Wonderful. Our educators were truly outstanding during this pandemic. On a dime, they had to move to a new mode of learning in March of 2020, and they have led the way ever since. Let's have our educators that were able to join us today come on up to the stage.
I just want to make sure that we recognize that these are representatives of a much larger group that's out there that has been serving our students every day, and we want to really be key on that. I do want to kind of start with something that we just were talking about a couple minutes ago. Cami, if you don't mind me asking a question about signage, and early on we were trying to figure out how do we do all this in the schools, and so we were going out and visiting. I know we went to Platt, we went out to Ryan, we were visiting with your staff. We were trying to figure out where do we put these signs? Are too many signs, not enough signs? I mean, it was a little crazy just trying to figure it all out and making sure that we're ready for the students.
But I was very excited because when they said, we're going to come out and set it up in your school, I was like, great, come set it up in my school. I'll be the pilot school. But it was, and it was so exciting just to think through all of the different pieces, because my staff was so excited to have kids back in the school. So we were like, all right, what do we need to do to have kids here? We're ready, let's do it tomorrow. And just thinking through all of those steps, we were excited and ready to do that and willing to do all of the work and put in all of the hours so that we could get kids back where they needed to be.
And I remember visiting your class, Jess, that the excitement about having kids back in the classroom. And I know that there was definitely always this balance between the trepidation about being back and safety and all those kind of things. But to think about these kids being back there, and you guys were doing a lot of work about thinking about, okay, like what's the setup going to be? You can spread out. Maybe you can't use desks. So, you were coming up with all kinds of ideas of how to make that work.
Cameo actually did a lot of work for us. She was able to reach out to the community. They gave us yoga mats so we could spread kids out. She got us seating desks. We tried to play around with tables and those things, but it didn't matter what the rules were. I didn't want to do it on the computer anymore. I needed them face to face. I needed to feel their energy. And I took it. I just said, whatever you'll give us, whatever the rules are, I'll do it.
I know that talking to many of the teachers, one of the things that kept coming up is just the idea of how many skills they had to learn on the fly in a very short order. They went from teaching in a classroom and then, within a couple of days, they needed to be like a YouTube star, like creating videos and, kind of doing the kind of work that I normally do, right? But they were great at it and figuring out these editing programs and all these kind of things. Is anybody willing to kind of talk about what that was like, to kind of have to learn skills on the fly? So I'm kind of totally doing a pop-up here. Anybody willing to chat? All right. Do you mind?
That's interesting because back in February, I took this teaching in the digital age class through the district, and I could never imagine that eventually I was going to put all those skills in practice. So learning like about 10 different apps, it was challenging, but finally I was like, oh, now I can use it. So yeah.
You never know when that PD will come in handy. I know that oftentimes, I was talking to our school librarian teachers the other day about the fact that they are very much like Swiss Army knives, able to do all kinds of things. Are they on stage? I don't know if I see them up here. I'm going to give a shout out to them from here. Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't see you. I just, again, regardless of what was going on, whether it was IT support kind of things, helping in the classroom, subbing in. I mean, again, educators were doing all kinds of things, and especially those teacher librarians, they were amazing.
It was fun because we had teachers who wanted to learn on the fly, and I just feel like we made so many improvements and changes and learned so many things so quickly. I'm so proud of our teacher librarians. I think they rock. They're such a resource in our district. And we are a tight community. We learn from each other. We help each other out. So just thank your teacher librarians when you see them next.
Thank you. Is Meredith up here? Okay, sorry. I didn't recognize you with the mask on. Okay. So one of the things that we were talking about is you got kind of one of the lucky things of being one of the first teachers in quarantine. And so, we talked about, a lot, first pancakes, right? You're trying to figure out something and you're trying it for the first time. And you got to kind of be like what was that like to kind of be navigating this new territory with your students?
Well, honestly, at first I was extremely worried because our students are our children. And so when we went into quarantine, all I could think was, is that student going to be okay? Is their family going to be okay? Or is my family going to be okay? Did it spread in my classroom? Did I do everything I possibly could to keep all of my kids safe? And once all of the COVID tests started coming back in negative, I felt really good about everybody being safe still. And then we stayed at home for 2 weeks again. And they did great because we were able to roll with the punches. We started the year that way. And so they went right back into that. And I just learned that as teachers, we can take on anything and we can teach in any scenario and make it possible. And not only that, but our students are resilient and they can make any situation work. And I've been noticing that in looking at data at the end of the year, how much growth the second graders at El Dorado K-8 have made, whether they've been online, in school, quarantined again. They've really done a fabulous, fabulous job. So these students really need a round of applause as well.
And I think you hit so many of the points that I would want to make about teachers, the flexibility, the great heart that they bring to their job. I know that I've visited your school a couple times. I'm going to put you on the spot, Samara. The idea of our specials teachers, I mean, it really, everybody was pitching in. They were figuring out how to do things on the fly.
Yeah, just a huge shout out to elementary specials teachers. So they were all both in person and high flex. They had to learn Seesaw and Schoology, even though other teachers didn't. And specials teachers are so special, and they really just stepped up during the pandemic and made life normal and fun and productive for our kids. So shout out to all specials teachers.
Thank you for that. I do want to talk to Andrew real quick here about, our teachers and our educators. One of the things that was amazing about this too is that not only did they have to deal with the pandemic and think about all those things, figure out how to take care of all this crazy world of pandemic, but we also tried to continue to keep kids learning. And at Columbine and some of our schools, they're kind of a step ahead on the strategic plan, so to speak, doing this kind of work to try to make sure that we're pushing forward. What was that like?
Yeah, so at Columbine, I'm part of our school leadership team. And something that's been transformative for our school is our work with the University of Virginia Partnership for Leaders in Education. We're really focused on data-driven instruction. And so that's been, we've been having biweekly data dives. We've been planning reteaches, and it's just amazing to see the buy-in from our whole staff in making this and closing the achievement gap for our students.
It's already a lift, and then they were doing things on top of it. I love that. And speaking of that, I was just actually Fairview the other day. We were talking about something that they've started called the math table. And I'd love to have, come on, step on up, guys. Going into a corner, I might fall off the stage here. The idea of really working with kids, trying to make sure that they have the support that they need is the idea behind the math table, trying to really kind of make sure that they're not stuck in this idea that I can't do math. But what I love about what you guys were doing was the idea that, and we're going to talk about outdoor learning in a couple minutes here, but the idea that as soon as we had the opportunity, you guys were back learning outside. I love that.
Yes. So I was watching, I just checked my email, so it was the 3rd? Of September when the board meeting happened, and then the next day I emailed Sam. I'm like, wait, do we get to go? Can I go outside with the kids? And so on that Tuesday, there we were with our tables and our calculators and our whiteboards and our dirty box where we'd put the stuff that the kids touched and we weren't going to touch anything. And here they come to do their math, like extra work, just to keep caught up. It was amazing. To watch that first kid walk up, did you COVID check in? Did you do the screener? We were checking everybody. They were walking up, and I was like, oh, it's a student. And then they're like, immediately, math space. They just open their notebook. They're like, can you help me with number blah, blah, blah. It was amazing.
And again, for math, right? Like, you're going to offer sports. Yeah, sure, they'll show up. Math. They were there for math.
Yes, and it was, and this was before any of the other regular kids were in building. So these were, we were still all fully online with everyone else, and these were just our struggling math students, kids that just wanted to have extra help. We had kids walking a mile or two one way just to get there and sit for an hour and a half and work and then, walk back. And it was just beautiful to see. And we were kind of both very, very nervous that we might be standing out there by ourselves for an hour and a half. Like, yeah, the kids are really going to show up for extra math help in a quarantine or in a pandemic. But they did. They came out in groves, and we ended up having to, within a few days, add more and more tables because we ran out of room.
Well, I want to thank everybody. We're going to give everybody a round of applause. And if you were part of Phase 2+, I'm going to have you stay on stage, okay? Thank you so much.
So if everybody will remember, because of a number of factors, we were unable to return in person in August. But knowing that our goal was to return students as soon as it was safe and possible, we pulled together an outstanding group of teachers, principals, representatives from the District Accountability Committee and District Parent Council, and began to discuss what it would like to bring students back. BVEA was an incredible partner in this role, and I think that, one of the things that I learned that I think we all learned, during a crisis is to make sure that you don't get pulled apart, you need to come together. And so our Phase 2 Task Force did that for us. And so I'll turn it over to Randy to ask some questions of the folks from the BVA and the Phase 2 Task Force.
Thank you, Rob. So Sam, I'm going to start with you and kind of have you talk about, again, this task force was there to try to help us take the next steps. Kind of tell us a little bit about who was part of it and that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So we had 15 representatives who were all from the Boulder Valley Educators Association. And I just want to give a huge shout out to our association. I think your friends are really tested in difficult times, and they stepped up and came to the plate and collaborated with us and did the hard work of figuring out how to get kids back. And I'm so grateful to you and all of the educators who stepped forward to do that work. We couldn't have done it without you. We really needed the brains of teachers in the room. But we also had administrators. We had 5 building administrators. We had 5 parents, a couple community members, some central office folks. And this group was so dedicated. I was just so impressed by their commitment. They met on Saturday mornings for weeks straight to figure this out and figure out how we could get kids back.
What I loved about this group is the fact that the ideas that we gleaned from these great professionals are the things that we built our plan moving forward on. So I'd love for you, Terry, to kind of talk about the elements that we were able to build upon.
Thanks, Randy. And Sam is right. We had a very, very committed and dedicated group of BVEA members who worked tirelessly with district leaders and community members, and we did what we were tasked to do. We came up with a phased-in plan, recommendations for returning students to school, and we started with K2 and then went on to 3-5. Preschool was in there, and then middle school and high school. And along with those recommendations were also some recommendations that came out of the task force for outdoor learning spaces, which you heard about. And we had the infamous weekly wake-up, which has become just really a stalwart with the BVSD community, and that was a result of that task force. And then also a bunch of recommendations for supports and for our educators as well as our students. So it was time well spent. It was a big effort, and I just can't say enough to the folks that participated in that, because it shows that we were able to return safely in person, not perfectly, but we did it, and we've made it through the year.
And I'd love to talk to our teacher representatives that are here in regards to the fact that you guys were representing sort of the thoughts that were out there, hearing from your colleagues. I know that we were talking about the health of our, how can we do this safely? I mean, what kinds of things were you guys bringing to the forefront, Katie?
I really think what we were really trying to focus on is what was best for kids, right? Keeping kids first. That's why we're in this profession. That's why we chose to be here. And even in the midst of a pandemic, we still needed to keep kids first. So that was mental health, socio-emotional health. And I think being on this task force, I was so honored to be a part of it and just to be able to share my voice, but also voices of my colleagues as well. I would talk to them about certain situations and what do you think, what would be best for you? Because I can be a representative, but I don't hold all of the answers either as for teachers. And one really good, great protocol that Sam had us do was interviewing our community. And so I would interview other colleagues working in the office. And when you would hear these conversations and hear from students about what they wanted, you were just enamored and inspired that we just had to always keep kids first and get them here safely and really do what we know is best for them. Yeah.
And one of the ideas outside of the amazing weekly wake up, not the timing. The teachers did not decide that it was going to be 7 a.m. in case anybody was wondering. Teachers did not decide that. The idea of the PBL Perspectives Project. So we had students that were, creating these great projects that were really capturing the moment in time for them.
Yeah, that was a kind of a side project that came out of the Phase 2 Plus working group, and Terry and I got to lead a smaller group of educators in designing a proposal for what that might look like. And the point of the project really be to give kids an opportunity to process and think about what they had experienced in this really unique year, to be historians and documenting history in a live way, and connecting what they were learning also to the pandemic and giving them a voice to think also about socially and emotionally what was happening to them. And we can't wait. Our projects that have been filtering in are just outstanding and amazing. And we have plans for a virtual museum that will be built over the summer to host and show those. And we'll also be showcasing some, fingers crossed, in the fall at an in-person exhibition of learning. So grateful to the educators who not only served in Phase 2, but our teacher design team who really did the bulk of the heavy lifting and designing units for that project to support their colleagues. So super grateful for that opportunity and can't wait to see what the kids do.
And that is a perfect segue to Michael and to talk about one of these projects that was come up with at Boulder Tech, which was the idea of thinking about the pandemic, thinking about taking that into outer space and having students design a habitat on Mars. How did you even come to that place? That's amazing.
Well, so one of the things that I did is that we developed a space construction unit, and it was because this is the generation that's going to be going out in space and making habitats. And so one of the things that we wanted to do is to talk about the pandemic and how would we isolate those kind of epidemics up there. And so I tasked the students to actually design an isolation unit within their habitats so that they would make sure that they could keep it, at bay. And so Mars was one of those areas that we went to, and also the moon, and then in outer space itself. So it was incredible to see the designs that came through. We had all the way from graduate level designs, all the way, from high school to graduate. It was incredible.
So last summer, our Foothill Elementary School principal, Nick Vanderpool, had an outstanding idea. Why not help fellow teachers by providing them with videotape lessons that they could plug and play to make that transition to remote learning more successful? Nick and team, why don't you come on up here and let's celebrate you and talk a little bit about what this incredible idea did for teachers and kids all across our school district.
As we all know, last spring was a pretty crazy and hectic time for schools.
When the pandemic hit in March and we completely went online, it was really difficult because I felt like I wasn't coming to school every day. And while I was online and I was doing the best that I could, I felt like I wasn't living out my purpose. I cried so much.
I think it was just a huge shock.
There wasn't enough hours in the day for us to get everything done that we needed to get done to provide our kids with the education that we wanted to give them.
Then summer came and we had the chance to catch our breath, but very quickly at the district level we started to say, what can we do differently and what can we do better for kids? We came together and we said, why don't we take some lessons and create them and record them so that if we do that in the summertime, they're available and they're ready in an asynchronous way for kids and families in the fall.
3, 2, 1. There were about 35 teachers.
It was really great because all the teachers that did these videos met together on a Google Meet. And we had a meeting. It was kind of like a crash course, like this is what we're envisioning. This is what we would really like to see. Of course, we're encouraged to channel our inner Mr. Rogers.
How are we going to know that we met our goals?
Simple, but really engaging.
Our mindset was, how can we take what the magic that happens in the classroom and deliver it through the screen?
Say S.
So I went from making my puppets talk, making my puppets move, inserting or embedding videos and tutorials into my videos as well.
Whoa, this is actually really cool.
You know, the first time that I got to see that raw footage as those first few videos were trickling in, it felt so real and so personal, and I knew we hit the mark.
D and S. I created 40 videos.
And there are about 1,100 lessons at the end. And they are partly in math. There are some phonics foundations lessons, and then our interactive read alouds.
Pecan pie baby.
I think 300 of these videos were done completely in Spanish for our bilingual students.
It's about making it more enjoyable, make sure they're going to retain that knowledge.
I've learned their styles. It's a huge effort on my end.
Thank you.
And on the teacher's end. I mean, they spend hours and hours making these videos. You know, I'm spending hours and hours making sure they look great.
Kiss your brain, because that was awesome. So these videos will complement the live lessons that we're teaching online live with our kiddos.
Then when we expand it,
I think these videos are giving the teacher the bandwidth to be able to have engaging, well thought out lessons for the students, and then also allowing them to have that extra time to actually connect with the students.
For teachers, it takes the pressure off the regular classroom teacher to come up with these resources. We're providing something that is tangible, that the teachers can access at any time and use forever.
These videos really helped us accomplish being on the same page, using the curriculum that we know is research-based and works for our kiddos, and really providing them quality lessons.
Now I'm able to really make sure to have confidence that the kids are getting what they need instructionally, and they're getting that connection from their teacher as well.
As an instructional technologist, I see this pandemic as a game changer for using instructional technology and kind of changing the way the business of education is run. And this is a pretty solid first step.
It'll get us through the first trimester, and then they are going to decide what what's to come next. So I think that most of us who created these lessons would be thrilled and would absolutely say yes if they gave us the opportunity to continue and make enough for the rest of the school year.
I'm just so grateful that I was able to put in my time to make an impact for teachers and hopefully make the beginning of their year a little bit smoother.
Hasta la próxima.
And I'll see you soon. Bye. Boulder Valley School District is pretty awesome. I really feel thankful and blessed to be a part of it.
So like I said, these amazing educators became YouTube stars, broadcast TV people, which is amazing to me. Kind of tell me a little bit about how many projects you guys took on.
Yeah, so this past summer, we started dreaming and said, well, what if we can do something for teachers to help at the beginning of the year? And the idea was that we would make these lessons that teachers could sort of use right away, and it was going to be 10 weeks worth of material. And almost 9,000 human-powered hours later, 5,000 videos, 3,220 completed videos, we just completed our project. And we're super proud of the videos that we made in English and in Spanish for our monolingual and bilingual students, math, reading, spelling. It was pretty incredible, and an absolutely incredible team.
If you guys haven't watched the videos, it's a must watch. These guys are amazing teachers. And what I love about it, well, first of all, did you guys all see the owls, the echo? And I was like, what's going on with all these oh, they're part of it. Yes, okay, now I understand. But the way that they were able to adapt what they normally did in the classroom and then be able to show that on video, really, I think, you tell me, did it help to kind of make sure that every educator was able to kind of think about how to rewrap their learning into that kind of world?
Yeah, I mean, I learned so much from this project. I mean, when you have to plan everything out and think about how you're going to engage kids in as quickly as you possibly can and make your lesson concise, I mean, there's so much to it, and it was actually a lot of fun. I mean, it was a lot of work, but I'm so glad that we did it. I'm so glad that we had the chance to provide these videos for everybody, and I know I utilized them because I took on 2 grade levels this year and a grade level I'd never taught before, so I definitely needed those 5th grade videos as well. So.
Speaking to teachers, I know that one of the things that they would say is that they would get to a place and it was a perfect opportunity for them to bring in the video, and so it was sort of an augmentation. It really helped out your partners out there in other schools, right? Do you mind if I put you on the spot and ask you that? Okay.
Yes, well, first I want to say that this was challenging but possible, and it's because of all of the support. But it was amazing to hear from teachers when we were collaborating, when we were deciding about ideas, resources, or ways that we can transfer this knowledge into the students. So I want to say that we are thankful for being part of this amazing project, also for including the Spanish piece, because we see the value of it. And first of all, I want to say that every time, they hear me saying, quiet on the set, they were like, oh, I know what's going on. I know what's going on. So originally 40 videos, okay, first round, but eventually when we keep adding into the whole curriculum, I think all of us got the feeling of, okay, if we did this, we can do the next round and we can complete the whole set. So it was a lot of support from the coordinators, from Nick, and we're thankful for that.
And again, this is last summer that this all launched, and so they sort of took up their summer, and we're doing this work for other teachers, and the editing of that, I'm coming to you, was a craziness. Nothing that I've ever seen at 9 News when I was there. I'm allowed to say 9 News, I think, not the other place, yeah. So what was that like? I mean, trying to pull all this together and working with all these fabulous people.
I'm really glad you asked, Randy. I'm Lynn. I edited all the videos.
Every single video is what Jess is saying.
Yeah. So I watched all of the videos. I'm a secondary teacher, and I was able to watch the greatest group of teachers I have ever seen be totally enthusiastic to a screen. They were able to teach to no one. And it's
In their basement.
sometimes in their basements, yeah. And it was a treat to be able to see what an elementary teacher does and to see it from the angle of the best that we have. So these videos are now in our curriculum, I mean, forever. So we can use them on and on and on. It's the most pragmatic thing I've ever done, and I'm really proud of each and every person who was involved in this.
Thank you to all of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
So as we started to bring students back, we knew that outdoor learning was going to be certainly a key to our success. Because of course it made a lot of sense knowing that according to our partners in public health, that it was going to be safer to be outside than inside. Actually convincing folks to take learning outside was a bit tougher, but many did and opened the doors. No pun intended, but I think Randy did intend that pun. On brand new engaging learning opportunities just outside the walls of our classrooms. If we could have Gita and the team that helps support outdoor learning come on up to the stage, including EcoCycle.
Like if there's a dam here, it controls a diversion of water.
Even from the beginning, a lot of the guidance about how to open up safely included the outdoors. Transmission is lower outdoors, and that's become actually more and more clear over the months. And so we started thinking about how we could use the outdoors at our schools really right away. We looked at the places that we already had that were sort of defined, and then we looked at other places on our property. This is an amazing example where there's so much space and so much green, and a lot of places where our kids and teachers can just easily go outside and head out for learning. We do have a lot of hybrid learning right now, so we do have to also be making sure that the kids online are either able to come with virtually or have something of equal opportunity to do. So we've had some schools that have expanded their Wi-Fi so that you actually can bring your Chromebooks out or your phone out and be connected with those kids virtually at the same time. So maybe you go outside and you're looking for something specific for a math hunt and you're looking for shapes, or you're doing a science project or a read aloud and the kids at home can do those types of things in their neighborhood at the same time. It's really just as simple as finding a nice spot to sit or hang out or investigate, and it doesn't have to be kind of recreating the classroom in the outside environment. It's real life learning, it's experiential learning. We are so fortunate here in the Boulder Valley School District that we have amazing schools, we have amazing properties, we have greenery around every single one of our sites. We have weather that for the most part cooperates, and kids who know how to bundle up and be outdoors. I hope that people who are maybe trying it now who didn't before realize that it's easy and the benefits that come from that, and it's something that we continue far into the future.
Thankfully, we were able to kind of introduce this topic a little bit. I love that. When we had that opportunity to go learn outside, I mean, we knew that it was very safe outside. Oh, I'm sorry, this could include you here. We wanted to make sure that we gave our teachers the resources they needed to kind of talk about, kind of how we launched out into outdoor learning.
Yeah. First of all, how many people are having an outdoor learning moment right now and wishing they had an extra layer? Maybe. I know. But the moon is really pretty, so look at the moon. So really, the first thing we tried to get the message out is that not only is it allowed to be outside, but it's really encouraged. And so we wanted to support teachers however we could. And the outdoor learning community came together immediately and created hundreds, really, of resources at a national and local level. Mara and I have been part of a national working group that was meeting weekly since basically June. I think that one started. And then Mara from Growing Up Boulder led a local group that met also minimally once a month to talk about how we could support schools and teachers for this outdoor learning. And we had the whole range of reactions from teachers. We had the outdoor learning enthusiasts who were excited to have more chance to take kids outside, and teachers who this was definitely their first time, and they had excellent questions on, okay, what do we do for seating outside, and what do we do about the weather, and how do we control a group of students outside? So we put together as much as we could, as quickly as we could, to help support and answer as many questions for teachers and schools.
And if you haven't met Mara before, amazing. Working with a lot of our schools to do these amazing projects with our kids where they get the voice. Again, really this is a huge opportunity to be able to put that right into work.
Yeah, this is work we've been doing for years and years, and the pandemic just accelerated it in this was a positive way of everyone coming together. And we've had people from all different sectors meeting voluntarily to figure out what's best for our kids so they could keep learning and actually thrive. And so we're hoping to carry this forward way beyond the pandemic.
And we are so lucky to have EchoCycle as a partner. We are next door neighbors, as a matter of fact, at least at the Ed Center. And we've had a great partnership with our schools, with Green Star and all those kind of things. But during this, you guys have really you've stepped up to provide supplies and be able to really support our teachers out there doing this work.
Yeah, EcoCycle runs the Center for Hard to Recycle Materials right next door to the district administrative buildings. And so what we did is provide a location that the community could come and bring their yoga mats and their whiteboards and their markers and things for outdoor learning and get those over to Gita. So that was our role.
And a very important role at that. I just want to thank all of you guys for helping us to make outdoor learning a success. Thank you.
So as we think about all of the teams that made a difference, I really want to take a moment to thank everybody that work in our support networks, our East Network, our Southwest Network, our Northwest Network. I want to give them a shout out. When quarantine started to take teachers out of the classroom, guess who went into their place? All the folks that work in our networks. They volunteered to go substitute in our classrooms, helping keeping learning going and our schools open. Additionally, the work of our strategic plan is more important now than ever, knowing that with the impacts of the pandemic on our most vulnerable students, we're in danger of slipping backwards, and we need to keep pushing forward to make sure that we're closing those achievement and opportunity gaps. As a result, our network teams really turned up its efforts on implementing our new scope and sequence, prioritizing standards and instructional units. It's really going to help make sure that our teachers and students feel supported. I know those of you that work in our network teams have been working day and night, and we want to make sure that we recognize you to know, so you know how much we appreciate your work. We also know that the impact of the pandemic has been great, not only on our students' learning, but on their mental health. Everyone, our teachers, administrators, and staff have been instrumental in supporting students through all this, and our counselors, mental health advocates, and engagement specialists have taken the lead. Come on up, Student Support Service representatives.
One of my favorite things to do was to chat with you guys early on about the ways that you guys were really embedded with the families and making sure that, you know, if a student was having trouble or a parent just didn't know what to do, I mean, this was really tough as we went remote, that they had someone to talk to and you guys were giving them tips and ways to work through that.
I knew you were going to put me on the spot. Yes, and we started early on during the pandemic when we did our first episode, and how mental health advocates and how the counseling team would partner with the teachers. And we're all navigating new ground. And not only were we responding to a pandemic, but we ourselves as mental health were in the pandemic. So we had to rely on each other for support, and Tracy got a lot of phone calls from me. It's like, what do I do? I'm crying because I'm living in this pandemic just like my families. So not only supporting our families, but supporting our teachers and collaborating closely with them was what made it successful, so we could provide the support the kids needed, because they came first before everything else.
So 2 million, that's a really big number, so big that it's a hard number to really get your mind around. That is how many meals our food services team distributed to our families since the start of the pandemic. Sun, snow, everything in between. 2 million meals. Let's have our food services representative and our food champions come on up to the stage.
I think this is an all-hands-on-deck sort of situation, not just for the school district, but for everyone. The best thing that anybody can do is look for ways to help. We are packing food into bags for families to pick up at distribution sites for an emergency food distribution since school has been canceled. So this is helping families who live in poverty throughout the year. Kids who are on free and reduced lunch or who receive food stamps, it's helping them, but it's open to anybody who needs it. We do this twice a week. Here at this site, we are producing about 800 bags of food right now for families, and so those will get distributed here in a couple of hours.
one of our 7 emergency food distribution sites where vehicles can pull up curbside. We have a carefully engineered process to make sure the food is handled in a sanitary and safe manner as the person exits their vehicle, gets the items, and puts them in their own vehicle.
Thank you.
We could have taken a very different route here. We could have said 6 weeks ago that it's no longer our task, or we're not charged with feeding students anymore and hungry children, but that was never a question.
I'm so proud of our school district and all the people that are supporting our community, that are donating, the efforts that it's taking to ensure that our families are getting fed.
There was a boy that came up to pick up food. He was by himself. His mom couldn't make it, and so he was probably 8 or 9 years old. He came up to the distribution site with a rolling suitcase behind him to pick up the food. And so we asked him how many children are in his household, and he said, it's just me. And then he started to panic because I think because kids are often told no and not understanding why, right? And if their parents aren't next to them, the likelihood of that happening is much higher. And he started to panic and started to explain to us that they're completely out of food. I'm sorry. He was worried we weren't going to give him any. And that was it. That was his only chance to feed his family that day. So, I mean, the upside of that, we were able to figure out who that kid is. We were able to give him food that day and make sure that his family was eating. And then we were also able to get them in touch with some other services that could help them out. Each bag of food is really a bag of security. It's an opportunity for families to focus on what matters right now. Learning at home. For many families, it's for trying to just make ends meet, find jobs. And as a parent, I know the absolute worst thing you could have to worry about is feeding your kids. So I think what we're giving people is security.
$2 million. I mean, that number is astronomical in my mind. I don't even know how you kind of wrap your arms around what your team has done. Tell us a little bit about how you got there.
Well, I mean, as soon as things hit last year, we just sprung into action. And one of my earliest memories was one of our distributors called and they said, well, we have 100 cases of avocados and we have to move them today. And you have to get them to people today. So one of our funnest earlier times, we didn't even plan to open last spring break, remember? And then Ari's like, there's a need, we got to do this. So we're open middle of spring break. We had nice, perfectly ripe avocados. So we brought guacamole to hundreds of homes last year. So that was one of our earliest good memories. But since then, it's just been an unfolding series of events. We've been through rains, hail, snow. We learned that every Monday in Berryville, there will be a weather event that will have our people out there, 38 degrees and raining, even the last few weeks in May. So our staff has just been tremendous. Everyone here working together, and the spirit of collaboration this year has been without parallel in my whole experience in education. So it's been wonderful.
Thank you. And you'll notice that some of the food service people have these amazing pins. 2 million is a huge number to be celebrated. And when we think about, that's a lot of preparation. You know, you guys have a brand new warehouse. Again, did you guys just, come together do you mind if I come to you? Come together as a team to just sort of get the job done?
Yeah, we saw the need and the team was great to bring us all together and say, this is what we need to do. And we just did it. We're here to feed the kids, and we were able to do that. So we're pleased to be able to help the community in that way.
The fact that some of our what was that?
Nobody wants to make eye contact with you. It's like.
As Dr. Anderson said, some of our families don't have that capability of coming down to the Ed Center or even to some of our sites, and so the team really was there to be able to help them. And this is an extension, Ari, of the things that you guys do typically, of making sure that we have these connections with families. And so it was just natural to be able to do that next step.
Yeah, it was really one of the most memorable team efforts of the pandemic in terms of Stephen and I hadn't met, and we realized there'd be 12 days between when families could pick up food and their next time. And so we just planned a one-day over spring break that really emerged into this 15-month effort. And the liaisons have been incredible. We've had volunteers. That first week, principals, school leaders were amazing. And we pulled together a team of about 35 people that through the summer delivering books, food, personal care products. It's really been inspiring to see the way everyone came together.
I can only imagine the kinds of reactions that you got from families. Would anybody be willing to share just sort of what this meant to our families out there?
I think that was the most rewarded part, not only to show with the food, but also to see the faces of the kids seeing, somebody cared from my school, somebody cared from my community to bring food to us, and that was really, amazing to see that.
Awesome, and I know Easter hams and gift cards, and I mean, you guys were there for them, even over summer break when a lot of you guys are not typically working. So I just want to thank both of these teams. Amazing job during this pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you all. So speaking of door-to-door service, that was one of the many ways our IT team ensured that our students stayed connected and learning during the pandemic. Let's have the IT representatives, including members of the ITLT team, come on up to the stage to be recognized.
I think there's always a little bit of panic at first, right? 30,000 kids going home. So we had been thinking about, all right, what is our role as IT to make it happen?
It's great that so many people are wanting to pick these up.
And certainly we knew that there were a number of things we'd need to do, like get devices, Chromebooks in our case, to the students in need. We distributed somewhere around 6,000 devices.
Thank you so much.
When you think about devices, once we deploy them, what happens when they break?
They're stuck and their education comes to a grinding halt. So we need to turn it around and give them a new device or a device that will function for them as soon as we possibly can. Here's the Chromebook you requested.
So we started a new program on the fly just a couple weeks ago called IT Prime. And we have 2 vans that are now running throughout the district every day. And we are picking up broken Chromebooks at the students' homes. We're swapping them real time with a working Chromebook. Those broken Chromebooks are brought back to a central location.
This is what we refer to as IT West.
And they're all being repaired so they can be redeployed to the next student that needs an updated device.
My mission here, making sure no kid gets left behind.
We also knew that we had to figure out how to accept calls.
It's going to open the network settings. We're at my home where I set up my little office in a little corner of one of my rooms.
It became clear quickly that we needed to take calls from parents and students that would be having trouble in some way with their technology at home.
As adults, I don't think we understand what the situation is with this pandemic. So we can only imagine how the kids are feeling. So if we can make their schooling the less stressful possible, that's our goal. I think that's my goal.
And then the last thing was, what about internet at home for those students in need?
We would either get them a hotspot, we'd hook them up with LiveWire or Comcast. As of this morning, we have connected over 1,000 students. And in middle school and high school, we're at 92% connectivity. And in elementary school, we're at 96%.
We have to be fair to everyone and provide the same resources so they can succeed in their schooling.
They smile, they thank me. They seem to really appreciate the effort that we're putting into keeping them in touch with their teachers.
It's gonna make schooling a lot easier.
These kids are still getting the education that they obviously deserve. And it's pretty cool to see everybody come together to make sure that happens.
Thank you for doing this, because it's helpful.
Everyone wants these kids to succeed in this moment and is doing everything they can to make sure that happens.
There's a young man whose mother doesn't speak English, and when I called them about internet, I gave him my cell phone number. And I said, when that's delivered, you call me and I'll walk you through it. He calls me every day to tell me what he's done in class, and his excitement is amazing.
Thank you.
we were all, I think, amazed to sort of see the transformation that happened, as we all had to stay home, we're locked down, and these delivery trucks were like amazing, bringing home everything except for toilet paper, right, Rob?
I guess except to Ryan's house, who had plenty.
How did you guys come up with the idea of sort of taking that idea and bringing technology to our families' homes? Go ahead, Rose. I put you on the spot.
So we're in an IT leadership meeting and Andrew says, so what if and we've all learned to go, oh, here it goes. But really it was just about, what resources do we have? What resources do kids need? And where are those kids? And we're going to send what they need to wherever they are. And we've delivered almost 4,000 home deliveries of technology, hotspots, whatever they needed to connect so that the teachers could do the awesome work they were doing to keep them learning.
Behind the scenes, it takes people making sure that the computers are getting fixed and all those kind of things. And I think about all the software requests, including some from my own department. Thank you, Sean, and your team for doing all that. It's never ending. I know that you guys had staff members that had to kind of set up sort of a base camp at their house, Andrew, in order to be able to sort of answer these calls. And it's far wider than it used to be, because it started like, I think IT help was all at people's was just for staff, right? And now it's for students, it's for parents, for anybody. What would you like to say about that?
Yeah, thank you, Randy. I think that the pivot to supporting parents and students will never go back. We will always support now parents and students when they call into our service desk and need help. And I think we maybe should have been doing that years ago. So I'll chalk that up as a positive. But the other thing about going remote, this thing called Revis, that we made up, by the way. Revis, the remote educational video audio system. Anybody know of it? Yes. It was pretty much cobbled together in my dining room. And then I was looking at Matt Elder right here. He helps with procurement with Ryan. We're going to need a lot of these. And oh my gosh, nope, you can't get that one. Nope, you can't get that one. But we finally got it figured out and deployed 2,500 devices throughout the district that we know were used.
And my last question is the idea that an extension of something that had already started before. We have a heart for our kids that are vulnerable, that need more support, and that don't have the internet, don't have technology. And so you guys have really taken that on during the pandemic. What do you want to say about that?
So if there's one topic that'll get me emotional, it is about every student having an equitable opportunity to learn. And Rob came to me and said, you've got to figure out a way to get our kids connected, knowing that we had already started this program called Connect Me, Connect My Education. We had pilots going at Centaurus, Sanchez, and Angevine. They were about 1.5 years in. We knew the technology would work with a private company to basically get free internet to the kids in need. The Board of Education was awesome. April of 2020, they approved a full contract with Livewire, and we started to roll out. We're not done yet. We still have about half of it to roll out, but we did do hotspots. We did Comcast. We did whatever it took to get every kid that we could get connected to be connected. So we're definitely proud of that one.
Awesome job. Will you make sure when you guys go back to your departments to give everybody there a big high five for us? Or not, all those things. Thank you so much.
So it's time to come full circle to rec field, and the outstanding job not only by our schools but our maintenance department. They've done a remarkable job in ensuring this stadium's been ready for each and every event. If we could have our Director of Facilities, Molly McLaughlin, and maintenance supervisors Travis Cook, Dylan Reeson, Carrie Sager, Frank Martinez, and Carrie Jensen, come on up.
So Molly, I want to remember actually it feels a little bit like today where we didn't have masks back then, but we were supposed to have an honor roll in March of 2020 in which your team was going to be celebrated for being impressively responsive. We didn't get to have that ceremony. And so I want to come back there and just recognize your team for that. It's been one of the places that you guys have really focused on as a team.
Yeah, thanks, Randy. So our team, when Dr. Anderson started talking about impressively responsive, really took that and made it our mission to be impressively responsive not only to other departments, but outside vendors, to our teachers, to our students and our staff. And we did that not only pre-pandemic, but also during the pandemic. So not only did we support all the different opportunities throughout the district during the pandemic, whether it was health services, food services, providing tents, helping with transportation and food services in keeping employees employed, but we also did our day-to-day activities with a smile. And so I could not be more proud of these gentlemen here and the other 65 members of our staff, because during this pandemic, we were not only impressively responsive, but we were all together for everybody. And Stephen in food service kind of touched on it, and the collaboration we had between operations departments was just phenomenal. I mean, whether transportation needed work to do, whether they needed us to plow in front of a bus to get them up in Netherland, we all came together to make sure that students were first. So I could not be more proud of this team here. This is our graduation team and just a portion of them, and a tiny snippet of our entire team.
And I can't tell you how many times, I think I've said this to a few of the members of the team, that whenever I said, oh, would you mind coming and working with us at the graduation, they're like, is that same maintenance team going to be there? Because they were awesome. And so I really, the work that you guys put in to get everything set up was huge. I know that, it came to the HVAC system, that we had a lot of work to do to make sure that our schools were safe for our kids. And we were working with the University of Colorado. We had scientists that we work with on all this. What would you like to say in regards to the work that we've been doing in regards to keeping our schools safe?
So when we think about facilities, it's not just HVAC and indoor air quality, but it's making sure that the entire building is safe, so that when teachers and students come to school, they don't even worry about the lights. They don't worry about the heat. They don't worry about the AC. We're here to make sure that all that happens without them knowing that it's happening. And so fielding hundreds of calls about indoor air quality and are we safe and do we have enough ventilation, or fielding calls about, oh, our heater's broken, are we still safe, can we still have class, or we need to move this furniture out, or we need to set up tents for outdoor learning or for food services. Those are some of the snippets of things that we do every single day, in addition to whatever anybody needs. And so I couldn't be more proud of this team, and I'll say that every day. I am so honored to be part of this team.
And last question is just the idea that, what is it like for your team to be here for all these graduations and to get to see the end product, our students graduating?
Oh, it's very rewarding for all of us, and I can say that the biggest thing I've been hearing from our team is it's been fun also. It's kind of a change from our normal duties that we do weekly, but just being out and seeing the public out here and serving them and just making it a pleasurable experience for them, it's really rewarding for all of us. But what the biggest thing I want to say is just the way Molly has just brought a deep sense of team to our department, and these guys right here, they're probably the most embarrassed they've ever been in their whole life. Their knees are shaking right now. They don't like recognition, but if it wasn't for these guys, I wouldn't look as good as I do in my position, and so on. So, yeah, we appreciate these guys right here.
Yeah! Yes, let's give them one more round of applause. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
So finally, we'd like to recognize and thank our community. The community stepped up in a big way. I can tell you when the pandemic started, we started fielding calls on how can we help? And we turned to one of our most important partners, and that's Impact on Education. Allison, if you'd come on up, Allison Billings, who really stepped up, helped us coordinate those efforts and raise those dollars to make sure we're providing all the supports that we needed for our students.
Sometimes when something truly surprising happens, it feels like it lasts a long time, even if it really doesn't. Today we are packing our buses and getting ready to head out to 9 sites in the Boulder Valley School District. The sites are where we'll be distributing backpacks full of supplies for our students for home learning, as well as books for our families.
BVSD started remote learning, and we've got 31,000 students across this district. So our middle school and high schoolers have Chromebooks, and they're largely working at home. But for our elementary school kids, not all families have computers for their kids, and not all families have internet access. So we have about 2,000 backpacks filled with crayons, composition books, notebook paper, markers, pencils, all kinds of school supplies so students can continue their learning at home.
They're super happy. They've been excited about what's inside the backpack, lots of waves, and just that piece of how are you doing. That connection has been really critical this morning.
Learning continues.
I think that our students have learned that there are adults inside their schools that care about them. I think that they have learned that learning is important, that learning will continue during this time.
I looked at a calendar this morning and saw it was just a couple weeks ago that we closed schools, and now here we are back into revving up school, and it's been a short time, even though it may have felt like it was a long time.
It's everything, right? A smile is the best gift we can get. So seeing these students get some new school supplies and new books, and know that that their school cares about them, their teachers care about them, that's going to help get them through.
It's incredible. I'm so proud of our district. It's all together for all kids, all families.
Very early on, I think it was one of our first pandemic meetings, our coronavirus meetings, I remember calling her and saying, I think we're going to need some help. And the answer wasn't, nah, we're busy doing other things. It was, okay, how can we help you? Let's figure this out. I mean, in a lot of the things that we talked about tonight, you guys were instrumental. Give us the whole landscape of all the things that you guys were working on.
Well, given that we're cold and it's towards the end, I will spare you all the details. But I will say it's been really nice to go to at the end this evening and watch all of these groups that we've been working with for the last 15 months. And I think that's our role. We've been around for almost 40 years as the foundation to the school district, but our job is always to make sure that students' needs are met. So when there wasn't enough money to provide food, we wrote huge checks to support food services. When there were gaps in how many hot spots we could get to the students, we went out and got the funding to make sure that every kid had adequate home internet. We partnered, there was a point in time where families didn't have thermometers, so they wouldn't be able to take their kids' temperatures to know if they'd passed the COVID screener, and we went out and found resources to bring all kinds of things to the table. The cool thing about my role is that throughout every tough day, and we went through lots of them, there were people in this community who wanted to help, and that kept me hopeful. And I think that's probably what kept a lot of people hopeful, is that we work in a district with other people who care, and we work in a community where people really value our kids and their education. And so I'm just super grateful that we could play an important role in the toughest year in education. And I'm so grateful to everyone here and to everyone in the BVSD community for all that they've done.
I know that beyond funding, you guys helped with volunteers. People wanted to, again, like she said, people were coming out of the woodwork to try to help. So they were creating masks. They were dropping them off at the Ed Center. I know that right now you guys are working with us in regards to the catch-up, efforts and trying to make sure that there's, programming that's there for students that might need it. Really, as we turn this corner and hopefully get out of this pandemic, Impact's going to be there working with us on the strategic plan.
Actually, we're done. No. Just kidding.
Randy, can we return these?
Yeah. This is our mission. Our mission is to be here for the students, and I think this year has just put a fine point on how important it is that there be a way for folks outside of the school district boundaries to support our schools and our students and our educators and everybody who works so hard in this community. So we have a lot of work to do, and we're thrilled to be able to help.
Thank you.
Allison, for outstanding service to the students, staff, and community of the Boulder Valley School District every day, but especially during the great pandemic of 2021. Thank you so much for your partnership. Appreciate you so much. So we tried to make tonight fun. We tried to make tonight about recognizing every one of our employees, all of our groups of employees. Hopefully you felt the pride I felt as we heard all of our people come up and talk about all of their efforts, all of the things they've done over this course of this past year. I want to say thank you to each and every one of you for what you do for our community, for our school district. I've said it once, I've said it a million times. People are our strength. It is all of you that makes this school district great. I am so proud to lead this school district and be a member of this team. I appreciate each and every one of you. Hopefully you had fun tonight. Hopefully you have some vacation plans starting at 4 o'clock on Friday or whenever your last day of work might be. Please take time to rest, relax. Thank you so much. Everybody have a great last week of school. Appreciate you. Have a great evening.